Okay, this is Bob Gums, and I'm bringing you the Concerned Forum. And I would greatly appreciate it if you folks would subscribe to our channel. And also, I would appreciate getting some comments from you folks on these particular subjects that we're going to talk about. Now, where are we? Okay. And why are we here? Well, it started off that Donald Trump claimed that this weekend we were going to have a treaty of some form or fashion. Actually, it was not a treaty that we were supposed to have. It was supposed to basically be a letter of understanding. Okay? Unfortunately, it seems that the nation of Israel did not like the understanding. So they said, screw Donald, screw the United States, and screw the letter of understanding. And they decided to attack Lebanon. Now, that was one of the stipulations of the letter of understanding, the fact that America would not continue any hostile action, and Iran agreed not to continue any hostile action, and that Israel would not continue the depredations upon the Lebanese people. Unfortunately, Israel said, screw you. And they're bombing the living hell out of Lebanon. So that tells me that Israel is not in favor of the letter of understanding. Now, people talk about the whole nuclear thing, which, quite frankly, I think is a load of crap. Basically, it's about Iran not having nuclear material of any type, which I think is absolute insanity. You're going to tell Iran that they cannot have any type of nuclear material, um, any kind of nuclear reactor, and any type of nuclear weapons, when in the meantime, Israel is allowed to have up to 400 nuclear weapons, and they can run through what, Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, and Syria like it's okay. And see, I think that this is the problem that most of the world has with the Israeli policies and with the United States who support those policies. Now, as I said, Israel, they decided, I think it was what, sometime this morning, to say that, screw the policy, screw the, was it paper or whatever, and they decided to go back commencing to whip Lebanon's ass, to put it mildly. And I'm just wondering, how long is this going to go on? How long is the United States, how long is Trump going to continue to allow the Israeli government to basically drag us along like a whipped dog? Basically, we don't have a foreign policy. Their foreign policy is our foreign policy. And that's madness. But, I think, and I'm going to catch hell for this again, but I think that this whole situation is basically built upon racism. And I can hear him out there now. Oh, there goes that damn Gums again talking about, playing the race card. Well, let me explain. Unfortunately, in America, we have a very difficult time learning from history. Okay. Uh, the Greater Israel folks, they have done their homework quite well. And what they have done, they have positioned themselves so that in the American mind, or what used to be in the American mind, that Israel has presented itself as the brave colonial warriors fighting to bring civilization. Okay, much as in America will manifest destiny as we, killed, raped, and stole our way across the continent, the American continent. I guess Israel is saying, "Well, hey, pal, we're doing the same thing." Unfortunately, the Arab peoples and the Persian peoples, and the Islamic peoples and the Christian peoples of that area of the world, they don't see it the same way. They don't think that it's right. And I'm happy to say that in general, the majority of the American people don't think it's right. Just because history repeats itself or at least rhymes, it doesn't mean that you have to dance to the tune. And that's what's happening now in the United States because of the rejection of the Israeli policies. And we have a situation now where what Donald Trump was able to do, he did it in 2016 and he did it again in 2020. What is it, 2024? Damn, how time flies. Appealing to white Christian nationalism. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that every person that voted for Donald Trump is a racist white Christian nationalist. But what I am saying is that that played a huge part in the election of 2016 and the election of 2024. And it's really sad because this coincides with the fact that you have in America where over 50%, excuse me, yeah, over 50%, I think it's what, like 54% of the American people are functionally illiterate. We have 54% of our people in America that cannot read above a sixth grade level. So you have to ask yourself, you want to talk about foreign policy, you want to talk about critical thinking. What do you think happens when you got a situation where 54% of the people are functionally illiterate? They can't read, they don't understand. They're not, they don't have the ability to use critical thinking. Unfortunately, for some politicians, uh, that's like a Christmas present because people will not question you, or people will be afraid to question you if they don't know what the hell questions need to be asked. And that's the situation that we have now. You have Donald Trump in the White House. And when you go on social media, you constantly have all these people crying, "Oh my God, I've lost my farm. I lost my workers. I was a teacher. I was a veteran working for the federal government, and I've lost my job. I've lost this. I've lost that. The schools are, in my area are closing down. The hospitals are closing down. Grandma has to live on the couch in our attic because she cannot afford to be in the nursing home." I say to these people, well, what in the heck? This is where um, bigotry, racism comes to play. Because you have to ask yourself, looking at the background of Donald Trump, I mean, what the hell did you expect? The man's a thief, a convicted sexual molester. Um, they don't want to say pedophile. But we do know that he is covering for pedophiles. He refuses to work to release the Epstein files. Yeah, I know he signed the thingamajig, right? But his Department of Justice is basically sitting on over half of the files. And what really is so upsetting is the fact that many of the American people knew this going in, and they voted for him anyway. And the question that needs to be asked is, why did you do that? Is it because of the fact that you thought that you were voting to hurt someone else? And I look at Latinos for Trump, and now it seems that what most of them have been deported or they're sitting in a camp somewhere, concentration camp somewhere run by ICE. And I would like to ask them, is this what you voted for? Why did you think that somehow this guy said he wanted to have massive deportations? Why did you think that this would not pertain to you? So I mean, that's the thing that is so curious. And what really pisses me off is the fact that in America, black, right? That's the how should I say? That's the yard line. That's the um, symbol that you want to run away from. And because of that, you wound up electing a guy, excuse me, voting for a guy that is sending you and your family members to a deportation camp. I don't know how many times I have come across people, uh, Latino voters, Latino votes for Trump, that have wound up getting deported, being picked up by ICE, or who have lost wives, children. No, I won't say children per se, but well, yeah, because these people who are being deported, many of them have children who were born here in America. So how's that work? You're being deported by ICE, and what are your children supposed to do? And this madness. And you look at Iran, and you look at the colossal screw up that Trump has done in our foreign policy. And to me, it would seem that the whole reason behind it is because of the fact that Barack Obama, and I'm not carrying water for Barack. Okay, I have some things about Barack. There are things that Barack did that I disagree with. But all in all, he's a decent man, right? Uh, a man of a certain amount of gentility and common sense, and especially dignity, which the whole world knows Donald Trump fits into none of those categories. And it would seem that Trump's main ambition in life. Oh, and by the way, I would tell Barack, you owe so much money to Donald Trump because you have been living rent free in that jerk's head for so long. So yeah, you owe him a great deal of money, right? But that seems to be the problem with Donald because he's not doing things in the interest of the American people, as if he ever really knew or understood what the interests of the American people are. However, he wanted to tear up the treaty that Barack made with Iran, which was a good treaty. Now, I will tell you right off the bat, I don't agree. It was a good treaty. I don't agree with it, but it was a good treaty. The reason I say I don't agree with it is because I feel that Iran has the same right to participate in the nuclear family, just like everyone else does, just like Israel does. has done, and I don't understand, especially after working intelligence when I was in the Navy with DIA. I don't understand why what Israel, what the Israeli government does is sacrosanct, but no one else has the right to do the same thing. And that's the problem. See, that's the problem with the Middle East. Trump tore up the treaty, which for practical purposes was a good treaty. And now, when I say now, February 28th, he decided to attack the people. Right during the time when he was having discussions about nuclear energy. So this brings another question to mind. Why in the hell would Iran want to sit down and have serious conversations with a guy that when you were at the table talking, you launched a goddamn attack, killed a bunch of schoolgirls, right? And a whole bunch of other civilians. Why should anyone trust you? I and again, this whole thing goes back to the whole racial thing that we have here in America because it's so deeply ingrained. Why do you think, now I would say to Trump and to his supporters, why do you think you have the right to do that? Why do you say you have the right to tell Iran, no, you can't have nuclear material, you can't have a nuclear reactor, you cannot have a nuclear weapon, but it's okay for Israel? Where the hell does that come from? And if you want to talk about who raises hell in the Middle East, my God, the government of Israel runs around the Middle East assassinating everybody. I don't think that anybody's hands are clean in this whole business. But I don't think that Americans understand what started all this crap off in the first place. Because they'll say, oh, well, Iran runs around chanting death to America. Yeah, you see why they do that. Because they had a democratically elected government. You overthrew it because you wanted the oil. You put in a dictator. The dictator was very mean, cruel, nasty. And after 20 some odd years, the people finally got fed up. So, yeah, I can understand why Iran has bad feelings towards the United States. What I find to be so concerning is the fact that a lot of Americans, they still don't get it. They don't understand why Iran would have bad feelings against the United States. And see, this is about racism. This is about this psychological thing that you think that you can hurt people and damage people, but that somehow they're not supposed to, I don't know, feel bad about it, carry a grudge, feel that they've been, shall we say, inconvenienced. And as long as America doesn't, find that big couch, that big Sigmund Freud couch, I fear that we're going to keep having these problems. I fear that the American people will continue to vote for people that basically stop what's good for their basic interest. And I don't know, just like what, turn a blind eye. Donald Trump has done nothing to help the American people. He didn't do anything in his first term. Uh, Not only is he not doing anything now, but he has gotten us in what could potentially wind up being World War III. And I just, I think that historians will have a lot to say about the effects of racism on on the American democracy. Now we're in a situation where the Iranians have said, hey man, look, in good faith, we said, we'll open up the Straits of Hormuz, we'll talk to you, blah, blah, blah. And then America allowed Israel to attack Lebanon again. And so the Iranians have said, hey man, screw you, because you can't be dependent upon. And the American people are stuck in the middle. Once again, we're putting out billions of dollars in blood and treasure. And as a former intelligence technician and member of the USS Navy, 2 carriers, fighter squadron, 5 years at the Pentagon and the White House. And I will tell you, quite frankly, I don't believe they say, oh, well, you've so far lost what, 13 Americans? I don't believe that. Seriously, I do not believe that. I believe that we have lost a lot of people, and we have also got a lot of wounded people. And my question is, for what? Why did this happen? Well, I think two things. I think we were trying to cover up the whole business about Epstein, and I think that Donald Trump has a hard on so bad for Barack Obama that he felt that he had to, what do you call it, one-upmanship. And see, this is what happens when you have a situation where racism and illiteracy join hands, right? Because both of those two things, the inability to read and the inability to look at the eye through clear, look through clear glasses at what's going on in the world, right? This is what is killing the American democracy. Now, I'm not one of those people that will sit up and talk in such, you know, ponderous academic poems. Okay, yeah, I got a bachelor's degree. I got some time, a year towards a master's degree, but I am by no means an academic. I am just an American that I've been fortunate. I've had some very interesting experiences, and I'm born and raised in the United States. And I tell you quite frankly, I am very depressed. I live in Africa now. I've been here for over a year. Got married over here, and what I find so depressing is when I see the news from home, it's heartbreaking because to me it looks like we're being dragged backwards in America. And I'm glad to see that a lot of Americans are starting to wake up and they're starting to understand that they've been played, that they've been had, okay? That the people who are running the country now don't give a good goddamn about them. And that's a good thing because knowledge is, it's always a good thing. It can be a hurting thing, but it's a good thing. The only question is, I guess it's a question about time, because I hear all this business about Trump trying to steal the midterms, and it's scary the fact that you still have people out there willing to vote for this asshole and his Republican Party. And I say this as a child of Black Republicans. My old man originally was a Nixon supporter, right? From Eisenhower to Nixon. And a lot of people don't know this, Nixon at one time was a civil rights icon. Yeah, he was more known for civil rights than Martin Luther King. Huh. But that was back in the 50s. I'm old, but I'm not that damn old. But this is relative, modern history here. Okay, but the Republican Party underwent a change. One of the things that really bugs me is when I hear, black people, young, especially younger black people, talk about, oh, well, the Democrats were the ones that started the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah, well, genius, we know that. That was in 1865. But something happened in the late 30s and 1940s from then on. The fact that the Democratic Party slowly started to turn against um, public, how you want to put it, public segregation. And over a period of time, the Republican Party, especially in the 60s, they began to incorporate a lot of the Democrats, Southern Democrats especially, that were angry that the National Party was tending towards civil rights, was tending towards Martin Luther King. Okay. So that by the time we get into the late 70s, you have a Republican Party that is basically almost a carbon copy of the old Dixiecrat Party, the old Democratic Dixiecrat Party. And basically they switch roles. And that's what happened. Now, I mentioned the fact that Americans are not that bright, and I know other people are going to give me hell for that. But I think that as an American, I I believe that you should be more concerned about the people who are trying to tell you things to help you for your own good, as opposed to the Republicans who want to tell you everything is sunshine and roses. It would be great if it wasn't for the gays, the blacks, the Latino immigrants, the women for choice, and all this other bullshit. And see, I've always found it amazing, and Lyndon Johnson was correct. Some people, all you have to do is tell them that they are, no matter how uneducated, how ignorant they are, they're better than dark people, right? Educated women, because they are who they are. And I find Republican women of nowadays, okay, to be fascinating. Back in my parents' time, you had plenty of Republican women. Okay, a lot of them were supporters of Bella Abzug back then. Look it up. Okay, look it up. It's time people start using their cognitive skills once again. Um, what's his name? Romney. Okay, his old man was governor of Michigan, and his wife, Governor Romney, at that time in what 60s, 70s, and his wife, they fought for women's choice. Yeah. See, a lot of people, you don't know that. If you don't read, you don't learn. If you don't learn, if you don't know, it's hard for you to intelligently participate. See, but that's what happens to the Republican Party. Okay, if you want to know what the Republican Party was originally, look at Romney Jr., the president senator from Utah now. Okay, that was kind of basically what the Republican Party was about until a lot of the white Southerners who hated civil rights uh, flocked to the Republican Party in the late, going into the mid late 60s and from then on. So any black person that talks about, oh, well, the Democrats are the ones Jim Crow and the KKK. Well, they're a damn fool because you're talking about something that it happened, but it changed. Unfortunately, people change, organizations change, and that's what happened to the Democratic Party, and that's what happened to the Republican Party. So for people like that to talk this nonsense about, oh well, the Democratic Party were the ones that had Jim Crow and lynching, and yeah, okay. That's like, that's just like saying, at one time in the case of Europe, men used to take clubs, and if they saw a woman they wanted, bonk her upside the head and drag her to his cave. All right? And that shit went out of style. Well, that's the same thing with the two-party system in America. If you want to talk about something, look it up. Okay? Educate yourself before you shoot your mouth off and look like a damn fool. See? Now, this is the thing that has got us in this quagmire in Iran. What are we going to do? What is America going to do? Trump allowed Israel to talk him into launching an illegal war. And Israel does not want him to stop. So what happens? I don't know. I'm asking. Hey, I didn't vote for that clown. Many of you folks out there did. So you tell me what should happen next. I mean, it's your country as well as mine. It's your kids. It'll be going, but they talking about the draft. That's not a joke. That's real. Our military is in sad shape, not because of our capabilities, but because you don't have the people. You just don't have it. And you have a Secretary of Defense, I'd be damned if I call him Secretary of War. You have a Secretary of Defense that is a white Christian nationalist, and I guess he thinks that the American Armed Forces should really just be made up of white Christian men. Well, maybe now is a good time to put that idea to the test and see how well you do. I mean, we know this guy has gone through the halls of the Pentagon, tearing down all the pictures of black generals and black heroes and Latino heroes and Asian heroes. This is what you have. This is what happens when you allow a charlatan, a con man, and an ignoramus, and a pervert. Yeah, I said pervert. He's been convicted, okay, of abusing women. My personal opinion, I believe him to be a pedophile, as I said. But we know that he has, he wants to cover for pedophiles. Does that make him a pedophile? I think all this will eventually come out in due course. But this is what you put in the White House. And unfortunately, America has to live with it. So now that we are stuck in a war with three great civilizations, involving three great civilizations, what is your solution? You look at Donald Trump every day. And I mean, look, he ain't no spring chicken myself, but I can look at Donald Trump and any damn fool, Stevie Wonder, no disrespect to Stevie, but a blind man can look at Donald Trump and see this guy's on the way out. What are you going to do? And you have a airheaded vice president standing in the wings. What is going to happen? What are you going to do? What are we going to do? That is the question. Something to think about. Listen, I thank you folks for allowing me into your home and saying what I have to say. The Concerned Forum, and I'm Bob Gomes, and we will be back. and we'll try to keep the flow of information going. In the meantime, take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and read. Not just stare at the cell phone. I mean, really read. Expand your mind, grow your intellect. Because the biggest problem that we have in the United States is a lack of knowledge and cognitive thought. So listen, take care, and we'll see you the next time. Peace.